Hello, fifth grade math students. Let's talk about the mid-module review we did in class today. So, the very first page looks exactly like your test will look. And essentially, there you're being asked if I had 5 and 16 hundredths. We're going to place that right here into our place value chart. And I multiplied and got 5,160. You're being asked to show that on your place value chart, which we all did. So we're looking for these two numbers. And then we're being asked to show how many jumps did we make. So if you see, I've highlighted here, we had to make 3 jumps in order to create the new number, 5,160. And that means, because we're multiplying, we were getting bigger. And if we're asked how many times bigger, remember, every time we move a place value space, we're going up by powers of 10. So if we make 3 jumps, that's 3 zeros, or 1,000 times bigger. Or another way to say that is 10 to the third power, to use your exponent form. And then the next one asks us to show division. So we started with 516,000. We need to make sure that number gets plugged in correctly. So make sure you count. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 digits here. I need to make sure I'm filling in 6 digits here with no spaces, because some of you are starting over here and you're going too high. And then we divided and we got 5,160. So we, in fact, with division, we are getting smaller. And if we're being asked how much smaller, well, it was 100 times smaller, because this number shifted over to the right by 2 place value spaces, which is this is a 10, this is smaller than 10, so we're getting 100 times smaller. 100 times smaller. Now, knowing this information and this information, then we can go ahead and we can write down our written explanation. And you can go ahead and you can pause the video if you'd like to take a look at the answer I wrote here. This is what we're looking for. We're looking to see that you're able to say that when you start with a smaller number and you multiply it, it gets bigger. And you have to be able to tell us how many times bigger. And then same with division. If you start with a larger number, but it gets 100 times, you got to tell us how many times smaller it gets when we divide. That's what we're looking for. Those are those keywords we want to see in your explanation. And again, you can stop the video to take a look at this longer. And then the next problem said, find the product of 4 and 2/10 and 3. And it says write the product in expanded form. So you would want to use 2 tools if you're not sure what these words mean. In your math binders, you have a page that looks like this. You're going to want to use that. And it tells you product means you're multiplying. This is in your math binder, and you can use that. And then you also have your packet that tells you how to write in different forms. So if you're being asked to express an expanded form, you can look at your packet and see exactly what is expanded form. Okay, so we're being asked for the product of 4 and 2/10 times 3. We're going to do our basic multiplication, and remember, we're dealing in tenths, because 4 and 2/10 is the same as saying 42/10 times 3. We're going to get 126/10. And if we're not sure how 126/10 looks, we can use our sleeve. And remember the stop sign method. If I'm saying 126/10, I've got to stop my number right here. So I've got 126/10. tenths, that's what my number is. And that's what I will write here for the product. That's my product. And then for expanded form, we highly suggest you use your sleeves, okay? Because it literally will give you the answer in expanded form. Remember, expanded form means we're just looking at how the value of each number is expressed if you were to stretch it out. So let's take a look. We just need to look at each place value, okay? So we've got a 1, but it's in the tens place. So that would be expressed as 1 times 10. And we would put that in parentheses. And then we're going to add, we've got the 2. And it's in the ones place. So we'll express that in expanded form as 2 times 1. And then we have a 6. But it's in the tenths with a th place. So that would be 6 times 1/10. And if you use your sleeve, you're going to be able to see your answers right there. All right, the next page on your test is comparing your decimals. Remember, this is kind of like who's Pac-Man eating for lunch. So I'm going to pause, I'm going to put the answers here. This is what we did in class today. And you can go ahead, you can make sure you have the right answers down. I'm not going to go through every problem with you, but essentially we need to translate the words into numbers, add them up, and then make our comparison. So you're going to want to, and you can pause to take a look at the answers here, but you're going to want to be using your sleeves. We talked about how we can plug these numbers in. If we use our sleeve and we plug in 3/10, we plug in 10 hundredths. If you use your sleeve, you should be able to get those numbers, add them up, and then decide which one is bigger. And that's just comparing your numbers in your sleeve. All right, so once you've looked at your answers from today and these, you should be ready to go on. And this is our last page of the test. This is about the chemicals. So if you need to take a look at the answers, you can please pause and get down the answers. Okay? This is what we've gone over many, many times at school. So we have to get down the amount of chemicals, the amount of grams, or we're talking grams, of each chemical. So we have to read the problem and figure out how much is in chemical A, chemical B, chemical C. We're going to write those down, and then since we're rounding to the nearest tenth, we have to take those big numbers and box off to the nearest tenth. We're going to box off to the nearest tenth. We set up our number lines. So I know if I have 105 tenths, going down on my bottom, the next number would be 106 tenths. Or you could say 1,060, hundredths, if we're looking at, because I did add the zeros there. And then we have to look at what's in between. So I want you to stop the video because we've all gone through this together. You can take a look at how we got our answers. And then down at the bottom, I added them all up. This is ultimately what you need to do. You need to take every estimate you got, put them on this side, and then add them together. You can use your sleeves to get a final answer. Because the question is asking us, how much medicine did she make in grams? So we would say she made about 29 9/10 grams of medicine. And again, 131, we've gone through this together. So pause the video, make sure you have your answers. And if you can do all these things, you are 100% prepared. We know you're going to do great.